everyone's dream it's one of the many common dreams is to be financially free. And I mean, you just said you're only 38 now, but how did you make it? I know you've uncovered some little pieces already, but how have you achieved it?
One important aspect of my life is that I've been broke before. I've been indebted to people. I've had to borrow money from people at some points when it was super tough. And so when I went through this, I told myself I never ever want to be in that position again.
Welcome to a new episode of Business Meets Life. I have amazing Dean Harry Diabate with me, and it's Friday morning, 9 o'clock, Valentine's Day. Dean, how are you this morning?
I'm pretty good, thank you.
Amazing. So, Dean is actually a French who lived in China for more than 15 years. He was working with Alibaba and was part of the Alibaba Global Leadership team actually for 7 years. Now he's living in Bali, has his own real estate agency. He's like the #1 influencer in roller skating in China, although he's in Bali now.
Yeah.
You do a lot of projects with Africa. You're financially free and so on. And ladies, by the way, he looks pretty good too, doesn't he?
Thank you.
All right, so let's talk real estate in Bali.
Sure.
Why is Bali such an interesting place for people to invest in nowadays?
Well, I'll tell you a little bit of my story. I looked into Bali real estate back in 2020. And how it all started was I was doing a project at Alibaba for Jack Ma. And that project was essentially named EWTP Rwanda, the Electronic World Trade Platform for Rwanda. And the whole plan for this was to help local businesses, local governments, and local students and entrepreneurs learn from Alibaba's experiences and build their own version of Alibaba but for Rwanda.
Interesting.
And so I was the leader for the trade segment of the EWTP. And my goal was essentially to look into how to build the trade route from Rwanda to China. And that project went so well that I got rewarded financially quite well. Stock options, bonuses, salary raise, and a promotion. And Alibaba is a performance-based company.
Oh, definitely.
So when you have a performance-based company and you do well, you get a lot of cash. That's what I did. So I got cash and I was looking at where do I invest that money into? And that's when I started doing my global research of where should I invest in real estate? Because real estate for me is the #1 investment that provides good returns, safer for your cash, and provides some kind of monthly return or monthly payout.
And then let me guess, you went on a holiday to Bali, fell in love with the island?
I did that prior. I actually went to Bali for the first time in 2018. And that's when I realized I can see myself living there. And so in 2020, I purchased my first property, the second one in 2021, the third one in 2022, and the fourth one in 2023.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so all of that sort of real estate assets that I built up over the years have helped me to understand that not only Bali is a good place to invest in because of its rental yield that it provides, so the returns are pretty high here in Bali. We say on average is between 8 to 12%.
8 to 12%.
8 to 12% return per year for a real estate investor. And then of course, because the threshold of acquiring a property in Bali is quite low compared to other countries, you can buy a mini, sort of like a nice loft/apartment for $80,000 up to sometimes even $150,000.
That's not bad.
If you look at the real estate prices back in Europe or in the US, or even parts of Asia like Japan, Singapore, or even China, that threshold is easily 3 times to 4 times that amount without even returns that are as good as the ones in Bali. And so I had that cash and I was like, I want good returns as an investor. That's all that matters to me. And so I started investing in real estate.
And did you also start investing in any other countries?
No, I only focused on Indonesia. I
Okay.
focused on Indonesia for several reasons. One, because I love the place. I love Indonesia. I love Indonesian people. I love Bali. And that was, I would say, the main reason is that I could easily see myself living and working in Bali after my tenure at Alibaba. That's the first one. The second one, if we look at the numbers, right? Indonesia has this very strong economy, or very, very booming economy, where it's about 17,000 islands, 200 million inhabitants, many religions. I mean, many religions, especially in Bali, but the main religion, I think Indonesia is about 85% Muslims.
Yeah.
But Bali is very, very eclectic. It's a lot of religions put together. And so the lifestyle in Bali is pretty good. With that putting that into perspective, Indonesia by 2050 will become the world's 5th largest economy.
I had no idea.
Yeah. And so that's coming. So when you're looking at a place to invest in as an investor, you're definitely looking at economies that are on the rise, a strong population, a young population, and a growing speed of how people are investing money into that region, right? There are a lot of investments coming to Indonesia and a lot of infrastructure building too. So that really motivated me to say, it's a safe place to invest in the first place, but it's also a place that I see myself living and working from.
And for all of our listeners, like they're not only from the US and from Europe, but also partly from Asia, who is the right kind of person to invest in Bali?
Actually, anybody who's looking at buying their first piece of real estate, for example. Buying in Bali for me was my first investment in real estate ever. And I did my research in the US, Canada, Latin America. I looked also in Africa. I looked in Europe and Eastern Europe. I looked at different parts of Asia. And eventually I put my first $125,000 in real estate in Bali. So anybody who's got let's say a budget of, 100K or even 150K can make an immediate investment into property here.
So I feel like for a lot of people who don't know much about Bali and real estate, we have this impression of, oh, maybe I can just buy a house here and I rent it on Airbnb. Is that still a good model?
It is. Definitely still a good model because last year, Bali had a growth in the tourists number that was about 6 or 7%, if I remember correctly. 2023 was 5.5 million. Last year was 6.3. And then this year, in 2025, I think the government is aiming for about 9 million tourists coming into the island for the entire year. And so when you look at the tourism numbers, you have more tourists coming. You have a lot of infrastructures being built. For example, there's been discussion around the subway being built from the airport to different parts of Bali.
Oh, really?
There's another very big project, another airport being built that's going to be built in the north of Bali as well. And so infrastructures are what is going to basically make a lot of tourists come here and have a good experience, whether it's traveling from one place to another or it's commuting to different districts of Bali. And so I can see myself when I drive in Bali, a lot of new roads are being built. A lot of schools, a lot of hospitals are being built. And sometimes we say there are even those shortcuts that people use with their scooters, a lot more shortcuts are being built as well. So
because everybody's like driving on a scooter.
Yeah.
We have something like Didi and Uber here, but usually not with a car, mainly like with a scooter.
That's right. So I can see, if anybody is looking for a safe place to invest in an economy that's growing with a growing number of tourists, Bali is definitely the right place.
So I was in an event Monday night, and I heard that actually around 20,000 new apartments, houses are about to be built. looking in the future, does that mean that if I now want to invest in Bali, that the prices of me buying land or me buying houses might go down?
Yeah, so there is this risk that we're seeing, especially in districts like Canggu, Uluwatu, right? So these two places are booming in terms of real estate development, right? And so me as a real estate, for example, as a real estate owner, I can already see that in Canggu or in the part of Canggu that's called Barawa, my return on investment is decreasing. I can see it already.
Interesting.
Simply because those places are becoming saturated with finished properties. And when tourists come to the island, they have so much choice, right? They have so many choices.
Yeah.
And so owners and real estate management agencies are essentially trying to keep the occupancy rate as high as possible by remaining competitive and decreasing the prices, right? But in areas like where we are now, for example, Sese, or even Perenan, or even up north, Kedungu, Chemagi, or even in places like closer to Lovina, where the next airport is going to be built, or even in places like, what's the name again? The name is, I forgot, it's called Bedugul, Sidemen. So all those places are essentially the booming ones, right? Where you have more developments going there. And essentially you have developments that are trying to remain as authentic as possible to keep Bali's cultural identity. Because the developments that you see in Canggu and Uluwatu are basically like, units after units and
Those
squared.
white boxes, as they call
That's
it, right?
right. So when an investor comes to Bali, I think an investor has to look for the places that are up and coming.
Yeah.
Instead of going to the saturated places and acquire a property that is going to be, of course, cheaper because there is the bargaining power that's on the side of the buyer of the property, but then the returns are not going to be as they used to be before. In Canggu and Uluwatu, I think it was easy to expect about 12 to 15% sometimes, but now it's closer to 8-9% net return.
And I found it interesting. I think you told me that it's very common in Bali. You, as a foreigner, you cannot buy the land where you want to build, but you actually have to lease it from a local, or you have to partner with a local. What's the usual time frame that people would actually lease the land?
So on average, it's about 30 years. You can negotiate 35, 40 years sometimes. That's possible. And in some cases, you can own a piece of land freehold.
What does that mean?
So freehold versus leasehold. Leasehold is a short period of time of 30 years on average. Freehold means that you own the property for at least 80 years. Okay.
Interesting.
And so essentially what a lot of people are doing is when they are serious about investing in Bali, they come here, start a company, and that legal entity in Indonesia is called PTPMA. A PTPMA is essentially a foreign-owned entity. So that's what people would do and go acquire lands that they can hold on a freehold basis. But if you go as an individual, you can only mainly own a piece of land leasehold for 30 years, right? So that's the current situation when it comes to ownership, the type of ownership, leasehold versus freehold.
Okay. And I remember you said that you founded your agency, so you have a local partner, right?
Actually, no.
No?
So I started a foreign-owned entity, a PTPMA.
I misunderstood.
But I have a local partner who's a shareholder of my business. So me, and another guy who's a Chinese individual. We are 3 business partners who are also shareholders of the business.
Ah, interesting. And actually, in a couple of months, maybe April, May or so, you said you're going to be back in China. I hope you're also going to do a couple of events where people can ask you more questions about, and you do this fully in Chinese, not even in English, right? To inform about real estate in Bali. And I think you also have something interesting upcoming. You mentioned something about you're the #1 influencer in roller skating in China. And last year you tried this challenge between Shanghai and Hangzhou. Can you tell us a little bit more about it, of what's coming up?
Okay, so I've been skating since the age of 3 years old.
Wow.
And I'm 38 years old now. You can't see it, right? So yeah, 38 years old. And so it's been 35 years. I would say the sport grew in me and I grew with it. And I think at some point during COVID in China, I was stuck in China for 3 years. And I think it was the same for you,
for
right?
all of us.
So I was stuck in China and I was in Hangzhou, but I was in a really remote part of Hangzhou where there was nothing to do. So not only was I stuck to go from work to home from work, and I was like, kind of depressed. And I turned to skating to find my happiness again. And so I did a couple things. I posted my very first skating tutorial on Red Note or Xiaohongshu for people who are curious about the...
Well, TikTok refugees would all notice because this is the platform where they have changed to now.
That's right. So I posted my first video there teaching people how to skate. So essentially how to skate, how to brake, how to keep the right position, etc. And that video went viral.
Wow.
And it was in 2021, around November or October 2021.
Still COVID times.
Still COVID times, big time. So I didn't know that it was going to go viral. But when it did, I was telling myself, well, maybe time to post some more. So I posted more videos, and then I realized there's something happening. And that something that was happening was a lot of people started coming to my profile, following me, showing a lot of interest about roller skating, showing a lot of interest about the other types of content that I was creating. And then 2 years later, I find myself becoming the #1 influencer in the sport in China and having brand deals with Rollerblade or even Flying Eagle. And then little by little, I start thinking, I'm on the driver's seat. If I want to do something that is going to get a lot of eyeballs, but also inspire people to get into the sport and maybe to challenge themselves, I have to do it myself first. So when I went on a business trip last year to China, I was there for 2 months, and then I was thinking about what is it that I can do that's going to be crazy enough, that's really going to inspire people at the same time. And so I decided I'm going to make that route that I used to take to go from Shanghai to Hangzhou for work.
Well, tell us how many kilometers it is for everybody who's not too familiar with China.
So between Shanghai and Hangzhou, it's about 220 kilometers.
Wow.
And I told
just one way, right?
Just one way. And I told myself, you know what? I can do that within 2 to 3 days tops. And and eventually, I remember that one day I told my team, hey, that's it. That's the day. I'm putting my skates on. I had my 20 kilos bag on my back. Wow. And I had my camera with me, and I started skating on the way to Hangzhou.
A 20 kg backpack.
Yeah.
I thought women usually take a lot with them.
I had my drone, I had my camera equipment, and I had some change as well because I was going to do a seminar in Hangzhou as well. So I had to take everything with me. But I was very happy on the way. And as I'm skating, I think at about 70 kilometers on the way, I feel a little pain on my right foot. And I'm like, oh no, something's happening. And I know what it is. A blister.
A blister?
On my right foot. And I'm like, I can go through this. There's no problem. I can still go and, no problem. At about 90 kilometers on day one, the blister becomes really, really painful. Especially at some point, I'm in one of those completely dark streets, super long roads, where you have all these trucks that are bringing stuff to build roads, right?
Oh, that's scary.
And the road is really not paved at all. It's a lot of bumps and it's very uneven. So the pain became stronger and stronger.
What did you do?
So I pushed through, and I got to the pharmacy in Jiaxing City. I get to the pharmacy.
Oh,
yeah, so I get to the pharmacy. The ladies are like, "What the hell are you doing?" And I was like, "I just skated from Shanghai." They're like, "Are you crazy?" And they saw my foot. They were like, "Oh my God, it's crazy." So they started taking care of me. And I get back home to the hotel, and then I rest. And the next day I feel it's okay. So I did 100 kilometers on day one. And my team at that same time was taking all the videos that I took of that day and started to edit them, and we would slowly post those videos as we are going.
But your team was not like physically with you, like
No.
on a scooter.
Remote.
You were all by yourself.
Remote. And we did something else, which was that we invited some of my core fans and skate influencers to join a small WeChat group where I would update them live on the trip. So I would say, hey, I'm here, I'm doing this, etc. And I received a lot of encouragement. And people were really cheering me up a lot when it was tough and saying, hey, you can go, you can keep doing it, etc. Chayo. So it was really, really a good time that I had, connecting with them and them connecting with me.
So what happened on day 2 then? Did
you
finish
Day 2,
it?
I did not finish the whole thing. Unfortunately, I did not, because 30 kilometers in on day 2, the pain was just too strong. It was like knives going through my foot.
Oh.
And it was from the left side, so the inside side of my foot, to the outside. It felt like it was literally a sharp knife going through the foot. And so I had to call it quits. And so I called it quits, called a taxi, and I was about only 80 kilometers away. And I say only because I knew I could have finished the whole thing on the same day. I knew it. And I get to Hangzhou, I get to the hotel, and then I share my sadness with everybody, right? I shared how sad I was, but at the same time, I shared a piece of insight that came to me, which was, sure, I didn't finish the challenge, but I challenged myself first. I said, I want to finish this. I want to do it. So I kind of like pushed myself to do something that's considered crazy. The second thing I did was, when the pain was too strong, when your body tells you, stop, it's time to stop now. You have people who decide to say, I'm going to listen, or I'm not going to listen. And by listening, they, keep a healthy body. But by not listening to their body, then it becomes difficult to maintain a good health, right?
So now for this year, you're going to tackle the challenge again. I'm pretty sure this time you're going to make it till the end. You're also still looking for some sponsors, right?
That's right.
Wow. So keep me posted when that's going to happen. Maybe I'll come and cheer you up as well.
Sounds good.
That's awesome. Now let's move on to the next topic. I mean, everyone's dream it's one of the many common dreams is to be financially free. And I mean, you just said you're only 38 now, but how did you make it? I know you've uncovered some little pieces already, but how have you achieved it? And then after this, maybe you can also give a couple of tips to our audience.
Sure. I think one important aspect of my life is that I've been broke before. I've been indebted to people. I've had to borrow money from people at some points when it was super tough. And so when I went through this, I told myself I never, ever want to be in that position again. So that's something that kind of shaped my character, to look at what it is that I could do in order to never go back there again, right? So that's the first thing. The second one was, when I started working for Alibaba, obviously I stabilized my financial situation. I had a salary, I had bonuses and stock options. So that helped me to rebuild myself, not only to repay my debts, but also to build a stable income, a stable financial situation where I could finally, have some profit at the end of the month, just by having a salary and bonuses. And then when I got that big chunk of money, which was about 300,000 US dollar at that time, when I got that chunk of money, I decided to look at where is it that I could invest that money into. That's when I turned into real estate. And real estate today is giving me rental in a way, right? And that rent that I'm collecting is covering the basic foundations of what I need to live properly. The food, the travels, and in some cases, some investments as well.
Yeah, and Bali's also beautiful to live, very affordable.
That's right. So my basic costs are covered. But then I also realized something, is that financial freedom can have different meanings for different people.
Yeah, because most people, we would all think about the money, right?
Yeah, that's right. But it's not only that. It's literally like you can be, you can have all the money in the world and think that you're financially free. But unfortunately, you still have things that are holding you back. For example, you could be divorced, for example, and have to pay a certain amount every month that doesn't allow you to do certain things with your family, for example, with your kids or with your ex-wife, for example. Or you could be sick and have all the money in the world.
Yeah.
And in this case, you can do nothing, right?
Yeah.
So for me, the concept of being financially free means, number one, being a healthy person, right? Physically, mentally, psychologically, emotionally. It just means first, you're a healthy person. Second, you've got all your basic costs covered, and the money that's in excess every month is something that you can use in order to pay for some traveling, pay for some toys or whatever accessories or gadgets that you want. That's like something that I consider as being, yes, I have some extra cash and I can do something else with it. And then another one is whether or not you're actually doing something that you love in life. Because being financially free while being employed at a company that you're doing that just for the salary and you can earn, for example, let's say $100,000 a month.
Yeah.
Do you think you're financially free in that case? You're not doing something that is fulfilling your life's purpose, right? And so doing what you want, earning enough money so that you can invest that extra cash into something that is meaningful to you, having a good health. If you have all of this, you're a well-rounded person and therefore you have financial freedom. So that's what I see being the core things that today I have been fortunate enough to work towards that and have now.
That's amazing. What's one of the other projects you're currently working on?
So,
we brushed... you feel passionate about?
Yeah, we brushed upon the real estate agency that I have. Another project is my IP, my personal IP.
Okay, tell us more.
So the personal IP is something related to personal branding, right? So for the past 3 years, I've been posting a lot of content in China. 3 days ago, I just reached that number of 100,000+ followers on Rednote.
恭喜恭喜!
谢谢, 谢谢. And now growing with the WeChat as well, with 15,000 followers on WeChat. And all of the content that I've been posting, whether it's related to skating, to my lifestyle, especially focusing on the health, wellness, well-being, and sports, the financial freedom topics that I talk about, for example, investing in real estate, etc., and even the cultural exchange topics. So those 4 verticals are what are basically the core components of my China IP right now. And so the China IP is another very big project that I have, is to grow that IP in China to hopefully reach 1 million followers by the end of this year.
Wow.
So the main purpose is that we've seen how some of my content is inspiring a lot of people to become the best version of themselves. And so we want to scale that up.
That's very meaningful.
So that's something that we want to do. And I consider myself as a servant to that IP. The IP is really the brand that aims to inspire more people to become the best version of themselves through those 4 verticals. So that's one major project that I'm currently working on. And the other one is obviously everything that's related to real estate, roller skate. So I even came up with this term that's like, I'm in real estate industry.
Real estate, I like it.
So that's something that we came up with. We're like, oh, that's quite funny. So we're building now a roller skating platform that aims to spark freedom for all through skating. That's our vision. That's what we aim at doing. And the way we do it is by building different businesses that are interconnected, where people can experience skating outdoors, skating indoors, learning how to skate through online or offline courses, and having skate camps and retreats, and having access to products related to skating through my company's online e-commerce stores. So we're essentially positioning ourselves as the enabler for people who want to seek freedom through a sport that is skating. And we're building tons of stuff. So these are the 3 projects that I'm currently focusing on.
When's the go live of the roller skating platform?
So parts of it is already live. We've got the online skating course that's gone live in China. We've got the e-commerce part that's been live for about 2 years. We've got the, what else do we have? We have the skating retreat for kids happening this summer in Bali.
Nice.
And we've got that another global skate tour that I'm doing at the end of this month in October.
I love how diverse you are. I love how strategic you are with your investments. At the same time, how you also do all of these meaningful projects, whether it's about like with Africa, or it's about like, as you just mentioned, like you want to have 1 million followers, not just to be an influencer, but to help people become their best version. I was always dreaming of being like the future female Tony Robbins in China. So
There you go. You're
maybe
not far from it.
I can follow your footsteps here. Now, is there something that you have not really spoken about on social media? Because what I really like about you is Dean is like, he's so authentic, right? And I just love your energy, aura, however you want to call it. Is there something that you would feel comfortable sharing with us that
Yeah,
you've never
absolutely.
spoken about,
Yeah, of course.
so that we can get to know you better?
Sure. I try to separate the. I try to be as clear as possible with what I share on social media and what I keep to myself. I think there is there are a few things that I have never spoken about on social media, and I don't think I will ever do it, simply because my IP is very strategically positioned with key topics, and some topics of my personal life do not fit into that IP, so I will never talk about them.
But then on the other hand, they also say, oh, if you become more personal and maybe it goes even more viral, who knows?
Yeah, but to me, being personal doesn't mean talking about every aspects of your life. It just means that what interests you, you go deep into them, right? What interests me is skating. So my whole journey as a skater, how did I do it? How did I get there? Why did I even start skating? And et cetera, et cetera. Okay, let me tell you what it is that I would never talk about on social media, for example. The thing I would never talk about on social media is the thing that's been related to how I basically really struggled at some point when I was in Shanghai. I didn't have any money left. Like I had like zero cash. And it's not something I will never talk about, but I will use that as a lesson to share it with people in a way, to people who are very connected to me, right? But at some point it was so tough. I was, I think, about 150,000 RMB in debt, which looking back now, it looked like it's not so much money, but at the time represented a lot of money. And I basically was in debt because my business wasn't generating cash. I had a lot of expenses, and that's when I thought about, finding a job. Right.
So that was basically before Alibaba?
That was right before Alibaba.
Were you a student in China? Is that how you
No, I always
came, or
worked.
you came as an entrepreneur?
I came in China as an intern.
Intern.
So I interned in a private bank in 2008 in Shanghai. And then I did 6 months there, and then I moved to another private bank in Shanghai as well to work there for a year. Then I went back to school, and then after school I came back to China. And so the whole debt situation was really sensitive for me at the time, because it was really making me question myself, like, am I really able to stay in China? And I love China, right? So I was questioning myself, like, is China for me? Like, if I put myself in such amount of debt, that sucks.
Did
maybe
you already speak Chinese very well at that time?
At that time I could speak some Chinese, but my Chinese improved when I joined Alibaba.
I see.
So that was a time when it was really hard for me, like, to question myself whether I should go back home and take a job maybe in a random company and not be happy for the rest of my life, or just stay in China and keep pushing and, work towards repaying my debt, right? And so when I joined Alibaba, that's when I saw the opportunity, because Alibaba actually, I joined this Alibaba Global Leadership Academy back in 2016, and I got selected among about 3,000 to 4,000 people they interviewed globally.
That would have been one of my other questions still. That is impressive.
So despite all the amount of debt and the amount of worries that I had about this, Alibaba still selected 32 people out of 4,000 people interviewed globally, and I was one of them.
And as a foreigner, it's so challenging to have a job in China.
Absolutely.
You're really one of the top, the best of the best, in order to be selected and get a job in China.
I think I wouldn't say I got lucky, but I think I got fortunate enough to have that China experience, which played on my side, because they search for people globally. And I was the only one who had that at that time, had been already in China for 8 years. And they hired a lot of Chinese and a lot of Chinese people and a lot of foreign people who all came from like prestigious banks and consulting firms, McKinsey, what's it called? McKinsey, what else is it? PwC, McKinsey, and a lot of venture capital companies as well. And all these people had like such strong academic backgrounds that I didn't have. I was just a little entrepreneur who was just failing from his business and looking for a way to get cash, right? But then somehow Alibaba, Jack Ma saw something in me that I think I almost forgot, and I pushed through. And so pushing through for me, really, at the beginning as an entrepreneur, when you join a company like this, it was tough because you have to adjust yourself quite a lot. So the first year was tough.
And the Chinese working style is crazy, the 996 and so on. I've given a training at Alibaba before and interviewed some people as well.
Yeah. So it was tough. The first year was really hard. I almost got fired on the first year because it was too tough to adjust. Like I wasn't able to gel in the team and to be part of the whole new culture of working and the whole new way of working. It was really tough. I almost got fired. You know, I didn't perform well the first year. Then I had to adjust my approach to work, my approach to objectives and KPIs especially. I had to adjust it, and I did. And then on the second year, I decided I was going to be a sponge. You know, essentially soaking in all the knowledge from Alibaba because the company is where it is, and I have a lot to learn from them, right? So became a sponge, and then it was skyrocketing.
That is amazing. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for
sharing
this story. I've been there as well as an entrepreneur of what you have just mentioned. Didn't know where the food would come from next week, things like this. And Shanghai can be expensive, although no comparison to Paris or Munich. Thank you for sharing this. And it's very inspiring to see from where you came from and within a couple of years how far you've made it. And I think this always gives a lot of hope that for so many people of us out there, every one of us can make it. And we have a common friend who introduced us. And she actually told me, so if Dean puts his mind on something, he's not just like 100% on it. He is like 1000% on it. Like, for example, with his IP and social media. And I think you were like live streaming like the first days on your social media. What was it like 3 times per day or like, I don't know. It was like pretty crazy.
Yeah. So Tian was right. When I put my mind into something, I go full on. There is no turning back. And it was just last January when, you know, we adjusted my content strategy. We decided to shift a little bit from just purely focusing on roller skating to doing a bit more horizontal content. So lifestyle related content, right? And I said, if that's the way to go, if that's where we're headed, I'm also going to use live streaming to just talk to people and just use live streaming to say, hey, I'm Dean, I'm from this, and this is what I did before, and here's my experience, etc., and just see how it goes. The first live streaming didn't do so well. It was like really just a couple hundred, a couple thousand people that showed up. But then
only a couple thousand that showed up for the first one.
Okay. It was I say that because in retrospect, compared to the numbers that I have now, it was nothing then. And so, but I didn't have any expectations on the numbers. The second one, I think over close to 100,000 people showed up.
Wow.
And the interactions levels were insane, meaning the number of likes, even people sent me some money during the live streaming. A lot of comments and questions came up. I had people from all over the world joining it as well. You know, the Americans, as well as the foreigners who joined TikTok, who joined Red Note after the Americans.
Amazing.
And Chinese from overseas and from China joined in. And then I told myself, well, the best way to capitalize on what's happening now is to keep doing it. And so I was doing 2 live streamings per day, and each was lasting for 2 hours. So every single day, starting from mid-January up to today, I'm still doing it. 2 live streaming per day, 2 hours each time.
Still nowadays? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is amazing. And it takes so much energy to do live streaming, actually.
But, you know, when it's part of your purpose, that's like, it's a tool that I'm using in order to get that IP out there, right? So as I told you, My IP is the product. I'm just a servant to that IP. So me, I'm working for the IP. And if the tool to make it grow is the live streaming, then I'll use it.
Amazing.
And so that's what I figured was working very well. And last night I did my first WeChat live streaming. I used my 2 phones. So I had one phone on RedNote and the other one on WeChat. And that worked also very well.
Great. I got blocked on WeChat live streaming so many times.
Oh my God. Yeah, probably too many restrictions. But I think, doing those live streaming and going after what I believe is right and what I believe is good for the company, for the IP or whatever is something that I'm willing to do. I'm just 38 years old. I don't want to wait until I'm 50 to be thinking about what should I do next. No. This is the time to do it. Like whatever's in my mind, do it.
That's so inspirational. So guys, we're going to wrap this up. We've covered so many different kind of topics and parts of the world here. Actually, no, I do have a question now that we speak about it because you are still so young. So what's coming next? Like, I don't know, in 5 years, in 10 years?
Wow, that's a question that I've also asked myself quite a couple times. Let's say that in the next 3 years, we'll have something in Bali that you will know very soon. I can't talk about it yet, but within the next 2 to 3 years, we'll have something that will make Asia stand out in the world of sports. And that's what we're building right now, working towards. The whole team is on it. So that's happening. Where will I be in 5 years? I'll definitely have still a stronghold in Bali, but I will still be traveling quite a lot between Bali, different parts of Asia, Europe, Africa, obviously, and the US. So my purpose is really to be a servant of all the verticals and all the businesses that I own. Is, for example, I still want to build that IP, work for that IP so that it can have a positive impact on people's lives. And so that's something that I can see myself do for the rest of my life, for example.
Amazing.
There's no time limit for it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wish you all the best. So do you have some final words, messages to our very international audience out there? We have entrepreneurs, business owners, managers, all different kind of people, different industries listening to you right now.
Come to Asia. Go to China. Try to get inspiration from all the technological developments that are happening, especially in China. We've heard of, all the AI companies that are coming from China. So try to come to China, try to understand what's happening because it will inspire your business if you're doing it overseas. It used to be that China was considered a copycat or copying what was happening in the West, but now it's totally the opposite. And Asia is becoming that major powerhouse for inspiration. So if you've never come to China or come to Asia, come here and get inspired.
I love it. Guys, sharing is caring. If you love today's session with amazing Dean, send it to your friends and colleagues, and we see you next time. Who knows in which part of the world. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.